Thank you for joining us.
Hi, my name is Brian Collins. I do EMS outreach and education here.
And my name's Stacey Staman. I'm the program manager for pediatric trauma. And we'd like to talk to you about Stop the Bleed.
So if you did not know, we were at the cafeteria last week, I believe.
Yes.
So May, on top of many other things, is May is National Stop the Bleed Month. And Stacey and I are both faculty members and instructors for the Stop the Bleed campaign. And we started about a few years ago.
I'd say 2015.
Yeah, or something. But what we do is go out and teach this course, and it's not a course that you probably got before when you were younger, doing like first aids kind of stuff, where you had a Band-Aid and stuff in there. The care for learning of how to stop and manage life-threatening bleeding has evolved greatly. A little bit about my background and why I got involved is I've been a career paramedic for over 20 years. And the reality is, when it comes to life-threatening arterial bleeding, you're going to bleed out to death within about 5 minutes. And the national average response time for EMS, because everybody's going to call 911 when you see something traumatic and bleeding and everything else. And the reality is, EMS is not going to make it to you in time. The response time is about 8 to 9 minutes, which is pretty darn good. And if you bleed out to death in 5 minutes, and EMS doesn't get to you until 8 to 9 minutes later, I mean, you can do the simple math. You're going to bleed out before help arrives. And so
Brian, this is like the initiative of CPR, right? We've taught the lay personnel in the public how to address someone that's in cardiac arrest. And so you're telling us it's important to learn how to stop the bleed because you can't wait till EMS arrives.
Exactly. The only way that people are going to survive, is that people need to learn how to do CPR for cardiac resuscitation. And when it comes to a bleeding accident, people are going to learn how to stop the bleed. And when people hear about stopping the bleed, the first thing they think about the traumatic injury, they think about shootings and explosions and stabbings. That's not the only time that you're going to be confronted with a major life threat.
Right. So at the trauma center, we see people that have life-threatening bleeding from motor vehicle crashes, maybe accidents from industrial like saws or knives, working in the kitchen. So it is everyday, potentially everyday occurrences.
Yeah, I mean, when I go out and do the class, I always give a story, which I went to my local school district for selfish reasons because I have kids that attend the school district. And I had a meeting with the superintendent to offer this class to the school, because it's not just for healthcare professionals, because he thought I was there to train the school nurses, and it's not. The reality is, in this, the way the society and the world is this day, is you just don't know when something's going to happen. So I want all teachers and all administrators to be taught how to stop bleeding, because EMS is not going to be there. But that day, and you know the story, I was meeting with the superintendent, and there was a kid that had his lacrosse stick, and he was cutting off the tape off the bottom of it because he wanted to rewrap it using a pair of scissors, and just slipped, and he sheared his brachial artery. A freak accident occurred. So that morning, the superintendent was more than happy for me to come out and to do the class, which we did arrange, and we taught all the faculty, administrators at that school. And when you put in the scenario base for active shooters and so forth, those administrators and those faculty members are the ones who are going to have to stop the bleeding, because EMS will not be there. Most people don't know, but EMS policy dictates scene safety, and we do not go into any hostile situation until the scene is safe, and we get that all clear from law enforcement. And we work with law enforcement regularly, and we tell them, I ask them simply, how long is it going to be before you clear a building for us to get access? And they say, at a minimum, 30 to 45 minutes, which is...
We know that's way too late, right?
Way too late.
Only takes a few minutes for a large vessel, for someone to have life-threatening bleeding and actually die from that.
Yeah. So the class in itself, it's an hour long.
About an hour. We go over some background information, including why it's important, the different steps for Stop the Bleed, but it's very simple. We teach major compression. So there's 3 different skills that you'll learn upon completion of the course. We talk about how to apply direct pressure to a bleeding wound. We talk about how to pack a large wound Here's an example. We do have hands-on portion of the class where you actually get to practice packing and applying direct pressure. And then if the wound is on an arm or a leg, then you can use a tourniquet. And so we actually practice tourniquet application during the program.
Yeah, and I can tell you one of the biggest feedbacks that we get, I don't think we've ever gotten a negative feedback.
No.
But one of the biggest feedbacks that we get is people basically say, wow, that they when they think of bleeding, they didn't think it was to this extent. And when they learn the skills, which are not difficult to do whatsoever, and the first thing we teach you is, depending on where the source of the bleeding is coming from, we'll kind of determine how you're going to treat that. So for the most part, you alluded that if it's to an extremity, you grab a tourniquet and we're going to slap that on, okay? Well, first and foremost, apply direct pressure until the equipment arrives. Then you take that and you slap that on. If it's to an area where you cannot put a tourniquet on, such as your neck, right? We're not going to put tourniquets around people's necks.
We won't do that.
Yes, some people joke, depends on who it is. No, I'm just joking.
Just
We're live, so we cannot get into that area. But so with the class is an hour long. You have a short lecture, PowerPoints to give you the bullet points on what to do and how to do it, and then thereafter we get into the skills portion, and that's I think a lot where the people really enjoy it because they get to actually get their hands and fumble with the tourniquets, learn how to use dressing. We also teach you if you don't have dressing at home, because not everybody carries this in their pocket. Besides Stacey, right? You got a tourniquet in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
But we tell you, what kind of materials that you can use, because if you're at home and you don't have this immediately available, you can grab your kitchen towel, whatever that you can find, and start using that to pack a wound or apply pressure with it to give you that protective barrier. But
so I think that's a good segue to talk to us about bleeding control kits. I think part of the national initiative is to ensure that bleeding control kits are available in public areas. Brian just showed you a sample of what we keep in the hospital with our AEDs, and we're advocating to keep them with AEDs. Most people are used to responding to that location to get emergency equipment in a cardiac arrest. So having a bleeding control kit where the AED is located makes sense. And in our bleeding control kits, I think there's a variety of different kits, but the kit that we have includes a tourniquet, includes gauze, packing gauze, includes a pair of gloves to help protect yourself, and actually I think it includes last minute instructions in case you forget how to put those tools to use during that emergency situation.
so, and we purchased these and have them all throughout the hospital's campus, right?
Yeah, so at Cooper in our main campus, we have them at the hospital, our MD Anderson building, our 3 Cooper Plaza or Sheridan Pavilion, also in the medical school and the CCBO. So where the AEDs are located in those buildings, we have bleeding control kits.
And what you're going to see too is after getting this training, because this is a national campaign to get everybody trained. It's not just for healthcare providers, okay? You can't just rely on EMS or other healthcare clinicians. It's the general public needs to get involved. And with that recognition, what you're going to see throughout the country is you're going to see these bleeding control kits next to, for the most part, every public AED out there. So you'll have AEDs for cardiac resuscitation, and then you'll have stop the bleed kits for trauma care, for basically bleeding control. So join the movement, come on out. I mean, I don't know how else to tell you. We talked a little bit about the training. We offer it here at the medical school every other Wednesday for the most part. If you go to that events webpage on the Cooper's event page, you can see all the classes that are offered.
And even though it's held at the med school, it's open to the public. Anyone can come, so it's not just employees or med students. It's anyone in the area can join us, and you don't have to have any experience in order to attend a class.
Yes, so I think a question popped up of how old do you have to be? There's really no
we've offered the class
restriction
to middle schoolers and high schoolers on up to all of us that are still 21.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, part of the training, I mean, we talked about the medical school, but our Stop the Bleed committee, we have a cater of more than well-qualified instructors. I mean, everyone from EMTs, medics, nurses to doctors to come out. And we will come out to your location. So, for example, I'm going out to a Girl Scout troop tonight. We've been to Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
fire companies.
I was at the Cherry Hill Public Library with the librarians last week.
We've done church groups, sports organizations, and obviously I think one of our big pushes for this year, our goal was to try to get out to the schools.
We'd love more and more youth, faculty, principals, et cetera, to become involved.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I guarantee that if you come to the training and you receive the training, you are going to be wowed, and you'll be confident in being able to help somebody is what it comes down to.
So I think that's a key point. I mean, most people at the end of the hour say, I think I could really act in an emergency, and the skills weren't that hard to learn. Actually practicing them made them feel confident that they could intervene.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people get, CPR trained and everything else to learn and have that confidence to step in. But so another question, Stacey. Can you buy tourniquets?
Yes, so tourniquets are available. I think we'll include also on our closing is that bleedingcontrol.org is a good website with more experience or more information, including how to buy a tourniquet.
Yeah.
Do you have any other recommendations, Brian?
So the bleedingcontrol.org just overall is a great website to learn more about what this program is and how to get training. And you get to see a lot of good testimonials from a lot of celebrities on there. This kit in particular comes from a reputable vendor. You can see knockoffs on there from many places. A tourniquet on average is about $30 to $35. The package of gauze can range, depends on what type of gauze it is, from a few dollars to as well $30.
Those kits are probably about $50, so
yeah, and the bleedingcontrol.org website has kits available for the general public, and I think they're about $50 to $60. It comes with a tourniquet, gloves, wound pack dressing, and directions on how to do it. But I guarantee you, once you come, you learn these skills, and it's not difficult to do whatsoever. And the other thing I can tell you from an EMS experience is that the skills that you learn is going to be no different than if you called EMS. Because for me to stop bleeding to an extremity, I apply pressure and I put on a tourniquet. For me to stop bleeding when it comes to a junctional site, meaning through your carotid arteries, etc., I'm not going to be able to put a tourniquet around somebody's neck, but I'm going to have to pack a wound, and that's what we basically do is we carry wound pack dressing and we pack that site to stop the bleeding and include it off the vessel. So, I mean, these skills are going to be no different than if you called EMS. So, if you learn anything from this, you have to learn to do it yourself until help arrives. And as long as you can safely do so, you need to apply that direct pressure that's needed, and we'll teach you how to do that in this course, all right? But you need to do all those steps until help arrives. And then at that point, you're going to give that person basically a chance at surviving, right?
definitely.
So
I really think this is important. I want to share with you that the number one cause of preventable death and trauma is hemorrhage. And so you can have an impact. You can save a life. And take an hour today or tomorrow and come to class and learn how to do that.
So, and the classes are all, you can find them at bleedingcontrol.org for the public that's looking.
That's correct.
All the classes available is not just from Cooper. If you're out in a different area, in a different state, you can find all the classes that are registered to the public. And I think we're going to have some other information and stuff on there. If you have an organization, a church group, Boy Scouts, schools, if you're a teacher or administrator, please, you can email here at Cooper, and we'll be happy to come out on site and provide this education. We do it regularly, and
there's no fee associated with that.
I think we should. There is no fee, $0. It's a very well-worthy training class to receive. So.
Well, we want to thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you, audience, for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.